Happy Friday and welcome to another episode of Brain Scratch. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for joining me here today and for caring about these cases like I do. Today's story is very unique. It starts as a Jane Doe case, one that wouldn't get connected to her name for decades. Around all that, we have a daughter that is wondering about her mother for years and years and years and thrown into a terrible reality about what happened to her mother. But through that terrible reality, in some ways, comes to learn about her mother. And maybe that would have never happened outside of this situation. So we're going to do today's episode a little bit different. We have a few sources just to kind of set up the start, but then we're going to bring on Krissi, the daughter of Wilma June Nissen, and we'll have her help us put the rest of this story together. Where does this case start? Inwood, Iowa. Inwood is a city in Lyon County, Iowa, United States. The population was 928 at the time of the 2020 census. We're talking very rural area. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the city has an area of 1.34 square miles, all of it land. Now, rolling back the clock to 1978, this is from the Des Moines Register. It was released on Thursday, October 5th of 1978. Body found in ditch. The nude body of a woman was found in a Lyon County ditch Wednesday. Agents of the Iowa Bureau of Criminal Investigation, or BCI, were flown to the scene to assist Lyon County Sheriff's officials in the investigation, which is being treated as a homicide. The woman was described as white, about 5 feet 5 inches to 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighing around 100 pounds and having long, dark blonde hair. She was dressed only in a pair of calf-high, light tan boots, investigators said. That's actually not accurate. She had clothing on as well. However, based on how the clothing was situated on her, there was some question about, was a sexual assault a component in this? The body was found by a telephone crew in a ditch along Iowa Highway 182, about a mile west and a mile south of the West Lyon School. Effectively, you had someone that was out there laying new cable, a 19-year-old. And initially he rolls up and thinks that what he sees in the bushes is a mannequin, and it actually turns out to be a body. An autopsy was scheduled in Rock Rapids. Officials said it appeared to be that the woman was in the ditch for about a month. I've seen different estimates on that. Somewhere between 2 to 3 months seems to be the current understanding. Investigators said their first task will be to identify the woman. Once that's accomplished, they will attempt to establish with whom she was last seen in an effort to trace her whereabouts before she was killed. Kind of standard investigative practice, but that first step is what makes this whole thing tricky. They need to identify the woman. We get to a week later in the Des Moines Register, officers still seeking dead woman's identity. So effectively, they can't figure out who she is. 9 law officers spent Thursday morning burning a 1/2 mile stretch of roadside ditch near here in an effort to find some clues to the identity. Thus far, they've not been able to determine the woman's identity or how she died. He said that he believed the woman was killed and her body dumped into the ditch. The body, which was hidden by 5-foot-high weeds, had been in the ditch nearly 2 months before it was found. Now, some other details would eventually come out about the body, and that was that it had been dragged to that position with a rope that was tied around the boots. And we actually do have a photo of the boots and the rope here. She was dragged face down to that location. They could tell that because of the way that her clothing had settled. Her arms were above her head and her hair was also above her head. But there was another very troubling thing about the condition of her body, and that was that her lower jaw was missing, and it appears that her teeth, I don't know if they had been knocked out or removed, but her teeth were not in her skull. And even with the bottom jaw missing, there should still be the top teeth. They were all gone. So this case would basically get stopped at that point. How do you put together the social connections that you need for putting together the timeline, understanding who this person is, and then trying to take all that and kick it into a homicide investigation to find the culprit? They had a Jane Doe case. and it would stay a Jane Doe case for years. They eventually would do clay recreations of the face here, but it would get solved in a very, very unique way. But really, to continue this story, I think it's time that we bring on the daughter of Wilma. Her name is Krissi Atkinson. And we are now bringing onto the show Krissi Atkinson to continue the story of this Jane Doe here, but we're going to rewind things a bit. And Krissi, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. This story has a very interesting beginning in terms of where you come into it. So tell us about your family. You were adopted by a family, and that family had a connection to your mother. How does that work?
Yeah. The family that fostered and then adopted me was actually my biological mother's last foster family. They had her for, I think, about 2 years.
Wow. And how did that happen? Like, that can't be an accident, right? Did they know that she was having a child, and then they went and...
I'm going to guess, though, they wouldn't tell me anything about her. They told me that she had me and walked out of the hospital. They also told me that they had her whole life, which I found out later was not true.
Interesting. So it seems like they were trying to maybe kind of sugarcoat or protect you in some way. Is that fair?
I don't think so. They had over 200 foster kids in their time.
Wow.
When I was born, they were elderly. They were 65 and 71 when I was born. And they were of an era of you don't ask questions. And I don't think they knew what she was doing. She did keep in contact with her foster families. Her first foster family was amazing. They loved her. I've had the pleasure of meeting them a couple of times. They are amazing people. Unfortunately, the foster mom developed rheumatoid arthritis, and Child Protective Services wouldn't let them foster anymore.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting to know that she was keeping contact with her foster families. Do you assume that she was keeping contact with your parents as well?
Yeah. I mean, she must have been if she was 22 and had me.
Yeah. But you weren't hearing about any of that from them. Wow. It was such a different time. I know people, like, if you're 20 and you're watching this, you probably just can't fathom this. But like for people of my generation and older, there was just this mentality, especially within families. You don't talk about these controversial things. And it was almost, at least in my family, in a really kind of bizarre way, it was almost treated as if that was a way about caring about other people. You're protecting them by lying to them effectively. And, of course, some people say, well, you're not lying, you're just omitting the truth a bit. But one way or another, yeah, it was just such a different way to look at the world. I think now, because of how information flows so easily, we don't really think like that anymore.
I know this is a tangent, but I don't think they were trying to protect me. I think they were worried that I was going to find her and leave them.
Interesting.
I once asked after my adopted mom passed, I asked my adoptive father how he met my adopted mom. Normal question, right?
Yeah.
Totally normal. He told me to mind my own business. Stop asking so many questions. He was an old Italian man, and
wow,
he didn't do emotions. They were kind of the live in denial type.
Gotcha. How was your upbringing with them outside of that?
It was good until I started rebelling.
Okay. Teen years?
Yeah, mostly teen.
Okay.
I found my mom's name when I was probably 11. I found a photo and my original birth certificate, and that was by snooping, as preteens do. And
are we talking like was this like a shoebox in your parents' closet or something?
It was actually a kind of a desk that had papers in it that were anywhere from 5 to 50 years old.
Wow.
So I rifled through it and found that.
And you would find a picture of your mother, and her name is Wilma Nissen, we believe, but we're not even quite certain on the pronunciation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So obviously you were you were questioning who your mother was. You were trying to find some information on her because you bumped into that when you were 11. What were your assumptions during this time? Like, were you dealing with, does she not want to know me? Why isn't she coming after me? Like, how were you feeling around all this?
Um, I was never mad at her for putting me up for adoption. I figured, because I didn't know that if she'd had children before, I figured that she was, maybe she was young and couldn't take care of a child. Uh, I looked for her my whole life. I kind of had this delusional daydream of finding her, meeting her, not having her be my mom, but building like a friendship, a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'm pretty impressed that that was your viewpoint on it, because I think I would have just been hurt and like, where are you? Like, why aren't you here? Why aren't you coming after me? Or, um, yeah,
I was lucky enough to have a family.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Um, did it ever occur to you that something could have happened to her, that this could have been a tragedy, or were you just
no,
thinking she was just off living her life and that was that?
I completely expected to find her one day with a new family of her own, and, the whole white picket fence family, I'd meet her and we'd have a cup of coffee or something and talk and get to know her. And I never in a million years would have thought that she was dead.
Yeah. So, we're talking decades of her being a Jane Doe, and then something happens in 2006. And how old are you at this point in
In
2006?
2006, I was 28.
Okay. And at that point, it's kind of a unique way. I don't hear about this being the solve for Jane Doe cases that are, 30 years old. How did this get solved? How did that part get cracked?
The sheriff of the town that she was found in was absolutely phenomenal. When they found her, different sheriff, of course, but when they found her in 78, they were able to lift two fingerprints and they ran them. But of course, technology wasn't what it is today. So they ran them locally. No luck. They went about to different places, go-go boots that she was wearing. They went to different go-go bars and stuff. Um, but of course, couldn't find any information about her. So in 2006, Sheriff Blumendahl, I believe Sheriff Blumendahl had them run her prints again, and a lab tech ran her prints, and they matched an arrest record in Long Beach from the 70s.
I mean, that's insane. Like, and that you're speaking right to it. The technology is what allowed it, because all of a sudden now you have these databases that have been unified, and we're talking about clear on the other side of the country. There's a record that helps solve this. Wow. Wow. Um, so I believe that starts a bunch of activity around this case, right? Because now they know who she is. And one of the things that happens around that is they do hold a service for her, but you're unable to attend the service. Is that fair? What happened with that?
I'm right. Well, I was okay. Slight tangent. I was a wild child. Uh, I was in group homes from the time I was 15 till 18, because I was too much for my elderly parents to handle. Uh, I got out of there, moved to Vegas, became a stripper, did all the stupid things that young girls shouldn't do. I came back after my mom passed away to take care of my dad. I was working at a club, um, 'cause, jobs are important.
Yeah.
And I got addicted to drugs.
Mm.
And I let someone stay with me that was also addicted to drugs, and I couldn't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Well, they were doing something sketchy that I did not know about, and uh, the police came and arrested them and took my dad too, my adopted dad. Uh, I did everything in my power to get him back, but there was a sketchy lawyer, and he had a son in Florida that was, he's still alive actually. He was in his 80s at the time. So he took my dad, put him in a nursing home in Florida, and decided with the sketchy lawyer, even though I had a will that was signed by both my parents, that that was my house if something happened.
Hmm.
Uh, well, they took my dad, turned off my electricity. I was fighting to try and stay in the house. I was getting off drugs at that point. I was off drugs. I was trying to fix the house up. I was trying to do everything I could to get my dad back, but I couldn't. And I finally gave up on the house. And I was living in a broken down car. So yeah, I was in no way mentally or financially able to get the service.
Yeah. Yeah. And outside of that, you're dealing with all kinds of stuff on the personal front. So,
And that
um,
was, of course, at the same time that they discovered what had happened to my mom.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, just talk about you're already dealing with a bunch of stuff, and then you have this shocking revelation, finding out that your mother's no longer alive, and she's a victim of murder from several decades before. But the investigators start working the case, and in a way, this gives you some more insight into your mother's life, right? When do you
No,
learn?
absolutely.
Yeah, when do you learn about her, and what are you hearing from investigators about her childhood and her upbringing?
Well, thankfully, I mean, where they found her body was a very, very rural, small town. And there had been quite a few sheriffs, but the sheriff at the time um, was very kind and told me what he could. Uh, he had a whole timeline up on his wall, a huge timeline. And I mean, I found out I found out about her prostitution arrest. I found out she'd been married before. I found out she'd had kids before. I found out everything. Um, I mean, I feel like she's a part of me because there's so much that I've learned that we have in common.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of struggling through kind of your mid to late teen years, being displaced in a way, like you're being put into a group home. What did she go through in terms of her childhood? Because I know there were
Oh,
some very specific tough things around that.
that poor woman. Okay, so her mom walked out on her and her disabled sister when they were very young. She had a sister who I believe is actually still alive in a group home named Mona, her younger sister. The mom walked out on them when they were very young, and then they were left with their father. He would lock the girls in a closet when he went to work. No access to bathroom, water, food, nothing, just locked in a closet when he went to work. And then he lost his job. So the family of three I know she was born in San Francisco, but somehow they ended up in the LA and Orange County area living in a car.
Yeah.
He would lock the disabled sister in the trunk of the car and then send my mom at 9 years old to go forage the streets alone for food, money, whatever. I have no idea where he was. I was told that by both the investigators and the first foster family she had.
That is unbelievable. How did they get this information? Was there a police report written about him at some point? There had to be, right?
Well, the first, I don't know for sure. The first foster family told me, but they knew because they were the first ones she went to
Right.
after
Right.
after that. I mean, her parents were. There's a quote, a newspaper clipping somewhere where her mom said that she was low functioning How do you say that a 6 and 7-year-olds are low functioning?
Yeah.
By the time she went to her first foster home, and that would be the Holties, she was 10 years old. She had never been to school. She couldn't read. She couldn't write, not even her first name. She did not know how to use a fork. True story.
Unbelievable. I mean, I guess if you're foraging streets, you're going through dumpsters, you're finding what you can eat, and you're eating it with your hands. It doesn't sound like Dad's taking her to a restaurant. Like, that's not
No,
happening. Yeah.
no. I saw slides of her very first Christmas, and she didn't get her first Christmas until she was 10 years old with the Holties. And I saw a slideshow of her at Christmas. And like, she had toys, and she was just like,
That is unbelievable.
They taught her how to read at a first grade level. They taught her how to write. They even taught her some basic math. They were amazing. They're still alive and they're still amazing people, but they're getting up there in years. So
Yeah. Yeah. And these are the Holties on the left, right?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
They are.
amazing that there's people willing to step up and help others like that. That's
It-
just really sweet.
yeah. It's awful that CPS decided that no. Because if they would have been able to keep her, I truly believe she would have lived a happy, healthy life.
What did CPS do in terms of her stay with the Holties? What happened with that?
Okay, so the foster mother, Maxine, developed severe rheumatoid arthritis, and CPS just decided, no, you can't foster anymore. So they took away my mom, and they also had a set of twins that they had been fostering, and they just took them all away. And they loved these children. They wanted to keep these children. They loved them like they were their own.
Yeah. Wow. So where did your mother go from there?
So she went to a few places. I know there was one foster family because I've seen pictures. And she kept in touch with all of her foster families because she never had a family,
Yeah.
Her parents weren't a family. I think when she was 15 or 16, she went to my adoptive family and they sent her to, and I saw you have a picture of it. It was the Ramona Mountain View School.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I can't find anything about it. I think it was a kind of a live-in school / facility.
Okay.
And I believe okay, so she graduated 9th grade, and that was it. And I'm betting that she graduated it from that facility. And as someone who was a ward of the court for a couple of years in the 90s, education is atrocious. So I can't imagine education in the 70s.
Right. Right.
So, and then she went to her final foster family that was the family that adopted me.
And what state was that in?
It was all in California.
It's all in California. Okay.
All Orange County. I think it was all Orange County. I don't know if the foster system was different then, but it was Anaheim, Seal Beach. I don't know where that Ramona. I can't find anything about that school.
Okay.
But
So she eventually leaves, and does she get married right away, or do we know about what happens in between the Haas family and her first marriage?
according to the Haas family, she went for a walk and didn't come back, which I don't know how true that is. I could see it. She was very spontaneous. I think I get that from her too, the wanderlust.
Mm-hmm.
But she left and came back married. Her first marriage was to Donald Wellington. She had 2 children while she was married to him. Unless the timeline is wrong, the first child was Michael Pizarro Jr., and the second child was Donald Wellington Jr.
Okay.
So that leads me to believe that he was definitely pimping her.
Interesting.
That and his record.
Yeah, tell us more about that. What leads you to that conclusion?
Well, there's a few things. One, she was a ward of the court. They don't tell you, especially back then. I can only imagine that they tell you about, what to watch out for. Um, I know my adopted family did not. It wasn't a. There was no birds and bees and stranger danger and all that back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think all she wanted was love, and she would have easily been coerced into prostitution. And I found actually a couple of articles that said that Wellington had been arrested. He had a rap sheet for drugs, burglary, and pandering. And right after she married him is when she started getting arrested for prostitution.
Okay. Gotcha. So, you are just going through like discovery after discovery. You're learning all this information about her life, and then now you're hearing that prostitution is a part of her life as well.
Mm-hmm.
How are you coping with all this information? Is there some point where you're just like, I don't want these details anymore? Or are you?
Well, I want to know everything. I want to know everything, the good and the bad. I want to know her.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was doing prostitution as, hey, I'm going to go, I think it was one, she got kind of coerced into it, and then it became a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
It happens to a lot of people that don't have, especially if they don't have anywhere to fall back on, a family, stability, education. She didn't have anything. So.
Right. Yeah. You're making such a good point. It comes from a need. It's a necessity. It's not like a choice that people would make like that.
Yeah. I don't believe that she was doing it for drugs or anything.
Yeah. Did you ever speak to Donald Wellington?
No.
Okay.
No. The law enforcement wanted to speak to him, but he was in, from what I understand, Tijuana and that general vicinity. And he just did not want to talk to them.
And is it accurate at this point he's passed?
Yes.
Okay. So, and they never got to talk to him?
I don't believe so.
But interestingly, even if he did introduce her to prostitution, she left him and at some point married someone else, right?
Okay. Yes.
And do we know much about that marriage?
Okay, so when she left him, I have no idea when she left him, but she met my biological father in 1976 and married him in, I think, June or July of 77 and had me in August of 77.
Okay.
And his name was Robert Alexander Irvin.
All right. And do you know how long that relationship lasted?
I don't think it lasted that long. I'm pretty sure they only got married because I was about to be born.
Okay.
I saw a wedding photo, and you can see me in it. I joke and say there's my first picture because I'm a bum.
Gotcha. All right. So just to get this information out, because we're trying to be as helpful as possible, there was several aliases that she was known to go by. That would have been Amy Nissen, Wilma Belt, Amy Belt, Amy Irvin, Wilma Irvin, Wilma Wellington. So basically the last names from her marriages. But then also Boots. And you were telling me earlier that you heard that was a nickname that seems to predate the prostitution work, right?
Amy does as well.
Okay.
I don't know exactly why she chose those names, but I mean, I saw a letter from that Ramona Mountain View school that she'd sent to my adoptive parents. Just like I said, she went to them and then the school and then back. And she had signed it Boots, and there was another one signed Amy.
Oh, interesting.
So it was before she aged out of the system. It was before she started the prostitution. They were not, I mean, she might have used them as stage names, but.
Right. So after the discovery in 2006, they connect the dots. They start the investigation. This information starts rolling in. They're putting together a profile. They decide to take another step in 2007, and that's an exhumation. Um, do you know what led them to want to do that?
They were hoping for DNA evidence.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the casket was full of water. It was raining that day anyway. It was a cheap one. Unidentified Jane Does don't exactly get the
Yeah,
fanciest stuff.
that's unbelievable because I
Sure.
thought that caskets went inside of another encasing, like a concrete
Yeah,
encasing.
usually they do, and I think this one might have. It's all kind of a blur. It was very emotional, and I don't know if I block things out or disassociate them or what, but
You were there for
uh,
it.
I was there for it.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
wasn't able to go to the memorial, but like hell was I going to not be there for that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember seeing the casket get pulled out and just thinking it's so tiny,
Yeah.
but it was full of water, so they were not able to get any DNA evidence. Um, it wasn't for nothing though. They were able to finally determine the cause of death.
Okay. And they have not gone public with that information.
No, they haven't told me. They haven't. The only people that know are law enforcement.
And they're holding on to that because they're hoping that the person that has the right story can match it up, basically.
Mm. Yes, all I
Okay.
hear is that it was very brutal and very specific, which is nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. Um, Especially just knowing the details about the ropes that were found on her boots and the details about her body likely being dragged to that position. Um, she was
The one,
treated inhumanely, and
yeah. Well, the rope was used. It wasn't used to bind. It was used to drag her into that ditch.
right.
Uh, If I may, she was dragged face down, and her arms were forward, and her hair was forward, so she was already dead when she was dragged. But that rope was used to drag her into a rural roadside ditch. It's still rural to this day, off of an unmaintained county road, county road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her, she had a couple of injuries. She had a skull depressed, I believe, a depressed skull fracture, a dislocated elbow. But the real nightmare fuel is that all of her top teeth were smashed out, and her lower jaw was completely missing.
And I understand they went back to try to find more of that, and they can't find any
Nothing.
more remains.
She had no identification. Her clothes, her top was gone. Her pants and underwear were around her left boot, and she had white calf-length go-go boots on. But they were the only thing that seems to have survived it.
There was also this ring that you
Cool.
sent me a photo of as well. Seems
Yeah.
like it was just a personal ring of her. She wasn't wearing it like on her wedding finger or anything, right?
No,
Yeah.
I believe it's on her. I can't remember which hand, but no, it wasn't a wedding ring.
And her clothing, and that was about it. That was all that was found with her. No additional evidence to suggest outside of the rope something that would have belonged to anyone else.
Not a damn thing. And yeah. And I was
Unbelievable.
told that in no uncertain terms, her jaw was missing, and it was not due to wildlife. Animals didn't take it.
Mm. Do you have any ideas how she got to this area? Because it seems like she was working out of Sioux Falls, right?
Uh-huh.
For this, we have an ad
Yes.
here for Playgirls escort service. Do you know how she got there?
Her last known place. Okay, so she was in California up until February of 1978. She left with a man named Charles Inman Belt. Uh, there's rumors that she was in danger, that someone wanted to hurt her. I don't know if that's true, the rumors, um, but I've heard them a lot. So she went with this man. to Atlanta, Georgia, and stayed with him and his mother. Could have been a couple days, could have been a couple weeks. And then a couple months later, she was brutally murdered in Northwest Iowa, which is just like a 30-minute drive, if that, from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she met someone in Atlanta that talked her into going to, this is my opinion, but I mean, that's over 1,000 miles away. And she didn't have a car.
Right.
So I think that she met someone in Atlanta that maybe told her about this escort service. It could have been another escort. It could have been a, for lack of a better word, a pimp.
Yep.
Could have just happened. But I really believe that she met someone and they were like, hey, let's go to Atlanta. And I see her being the type of, oh, okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some of those situations, the person that is the sex trafficker or the pimp is going to look to control them in some way. And that's either going to be with drugs, money, or love. And we're already seeing a pattern that your mom had, at least in her initial marriage, of she married a guy that was likely trafficking her as well. So
also, if I may, a lot of times girls working for a service, which is a glorified way of saying pimp, in my opinion, will recruit girls.
Right.
So it could have been anyone. It could have been a man, could have been a woman. But I feel in my entire being that she met someone in Atlanta, and that's how she ended up in Sioux Falls.
Okay. Now, for a period of time, it seemed like they did actually have a person of interest. I think they might have even referred to him as a suspect for a while in serial killer Robert Ben Rhodes. And
yes, the truck stop killer.
Yeah, we can see here the truck stop killer. He is confirmed to have tortured and killed at least 2 couples in Illinois and Texas in 89 and 90, and is additionally suspected of torturing, raping, and killing more than 50 women between 1975 and 1990. Do you know, he's not in consideration anymore, right?
No, they cleared him. That's actually how they were able to have so much funding and have the FBI involved, is they were able to consider him, and they cleared him. I'm not sure how. They don't tell me the details, but he has been cleared.
Obviously, we know that your mother had a really rough life living up to this point, and in that type of lifestyle in particular, you can meet some very bad people.
Yes.
There's an interesting character in this that I almost think of in a weird way as a pirate because of what she's known for. Can you tell us about Sugar?
Ah, yes. Sugar and Peaches are two, I don't know. They were suspects, then they were people of interest, then they were suspects. They could be either, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
That picture is Sugar in around the time my mom was murdered.
Okay.
She worked for the same escort service in Sioux Falls. And apparently there is also a woman named Peaches, or so I've been told, that also worked for the service, but they can't find anything. She's in the wind. She's a ghost.
Right.
But Sugar, they know Sugar's real name. They know her whereabouts. They have done 3 polygraph tests that have all failed.
Do you know on what questions in particular?
No.
Okay.
They won't tell me. When they first identified my mom, the sheriff and the lead detective were phenomenal, and they told me what they could. The sheriff had to retire because of a family emergency, and the lead detective works in a different department now. So, yeah, I don't get much. The last sheriff really didn't do anything. The current sheriff, I've pissed off, I think. So
Yeah. I mean, that's known to happen in these cases. I know it can be really frustrating when you're not getting updates and hearing a lot about the details, especially when you know that they know
yeah,
so much more, but they can't
yeah.
share it
They,
with
they
you.
told me they have a 10 by 10 room full of files. They never even reburied her.
Really?
Yeah, she's still in an evidence storage at the sheriff's department.
Wow.
I
Wow.
had a meeting with them last month, and I got told they can't answer any of my questions. I said, well, when are you going to rebury her? Where is she? Do you even know where she is? They said, well, she's here. But, what if something comes along that can solve the case from her remains? And I'm like, they're almost 50 years old. They've been waterlogged. They've been sent all over the place. I don't see DNA doing anything other than being able to identify family.
Yeah. Didn't I see,
But
I saw a news segment from maybe a year or two ago where they had you go out and you were visiting the gravesite. It's an empty gravesite, essentially. It's just your mother's headstone
mhm,
there.
yeah, yeah,
Man, it's already a tough situation to deal with emotionally, and then to know that she's not even really at rest, it's going to make it a little bit worse.
yeah. I
So,
asked them when they would bury her, but
yeah, yeah. So something else that I ran into on the information on Sugar is that she was known to basically jack other escorts.
mhm,
She would steal from them.
yes, she
Um,
had. Um, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
no, no, go ahead.
Um, she is, from what I've been told by law enforcement, she is known to have uh, robbed other escorts, clients, um, has a violent streak. There is a rumor. Okay, I was told that she uh, and Peaches, because Peaches is supposed to be from the Thunder Bay, Ontario area.
Okay.
Uh, I was told her and Peaches fled to Ontario, or actually Thunder Bay, um, right after the murder, and that they fled back because allegedly, now it's allegedly, because I did ask the sheriff's department if they could tell me if this was true because I can't find anything on it. And they said, well, just say allegedly. I'm like, okay. So allegedly, Sugar stabbed someone and they had to come back.
Okay. So they tried to skip the country. They go to Canada. Something
Mm,
bad happens there, and then they have to leave Canada.
mm.
So Sugar's now in the U.S. Probably in her 60s at least at this
Yeah,
point.
60s or early 70s.
Yeah. Peaches, we don't know, and they don't know. They just have the description that she's a light complected black female from Thunder Bay, Canada. She worked in the escort service in Sioux Falls and Yankton, South Dakota. And that's literally all they have on her. Uh, have you ever tried to look into Sugar or reach out to her yourself?
They will not give me any information on her. They
Yeah,
will not give me her name, her whereabouts, anything. I understand why they're afraid I'm going to do something stupid,
sure, sure.
but if anything, all I want to do is talk to her. I like to talk to people in person and get a feel for them. When
Yeah,
I had the meeting last month with the sheriff's department, the sheriff was there, the investigator was there. There's only one investigator for the entire county for any major crimes.
oof, wow.
She's very busy. She's very rarely in the office. She seems nice. I got a good vibe from her, which is good because
Yeah,
I thought she could me. Um, the, the Iowa Attorney General now has a brand spanking new cold case unit, and there was a gentleman there from that as well. Uh,
okay. So there's some resources circling around.
however, I I'm told anything I ask, I'm told it's an active, ongoing investigation.
Yeah, sure.
But just because it's an active and ongoing investigation does not mean they are actively investigating,
Yeah,
in my opinion. Um, I spoke with I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it was over the phone. Uh, the investigator with the cold case unit said that it could take a year, maybe more, maybe less. He couldn't give me a time before they can even review her case.
Oh, wow.
And then I was told that her case probably shouldn't even be on their radar
Wow.
because it's so old and there's not a good timeline and everybody's dead. And I'm like, but you have so much information.
We've got sugar, we've got peaches, but we've also got this interesting thing in that they were working in a different city that was about 30 miles away. Something brought them to Lyon County. They were hired for some particular job, and that introduces a guy named John Van Gameren.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this guy, and how did he come up on police radar?
Apparently, he was partying hard in the 70s. He had a bunch of perjury charges pressed on him for lying about bringing escorts and strippers across the state line. I believe he lived in Inwood, Iowa, which is right in between Rock Rapids and Sioux Falls, on the Iowa side. I don't know if he cooperated. They said he cooperated, but there was also something said by, I don't remember if it wasn't the sheriff's department, but it was somebody higher up working with the sheriff's department said something that looked bad. And so I don't know if that's why the charges were dropped. They said that he cooperated.
Okay.
But
so it seems like he's having parties in the area. I did see some details on the types of charges, and the stuff that he said he perjured himself about was kind of, I mean, it was all around prostitution. There was something around him saying that he had his wallet stolen in Las Vegas, and they think that it was that a prostitute actually picked it off him from the room.
Yeah.
But none of it seemed directly connected to your mother's case. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. They think that she was at one of his parties, so they were trying to get all the information they could.
Right. And that's going to be challenging because even if they can find a list, like even if they literally had a list of here's the people that were at that party, you're going and talking to them about some type of illegal sex party that happened in the late 70s.
Yeah. And it's a very conservative, very close-knit town.
Okay.
So even if someone knows something, they don't want to look bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like nobody would be in trouble for going to these parties. It was the 70s. I mean, come on.
Oh, statute of limitations long expired on any charges around that.
Yeah. They're not in trouble. Nobody's going to judge them. They were young and partying. It was the 70s. There was disco. I mean,
yeah.
All I can think of is hookers and blow when I think of the 70s.
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, really, you went to a party, had some fun. Just because you went to the party doesn't mean you engaged in anything with the escorts. So,
yeah, there is something interesting though that Chief Deputy Berkey has mentioned about the parties, and the way that he phrases it is to the effect that basically people at the party saw what led to your mother's death. Do you know what he's referring to, or what are your thoughts about what that could mean?
he believes, and I agree. He's an amazing, was an amazing detective. He's no longer a detective, but he worked on her case for a lot of years, and he knows it inside and out. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, just what does he believe the partygoers saw?
He thinks that somebody saw something that they may not even know is important, but somebody saw something that either saw her get murdered or led up to her getting murdered. So it could have been an argument. It could have been her getting in a car with someone.
Okay.
I mean, any little trivial thing could crack the case. I mean, it's been almost 50 years. It's time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
Past.
that's the interesting thing about this case too, is that obviously with the description of where her body's found and the way it was found, it was dragged there. There's another crime scene somewhere else. And it's interesting to think that, yeah, they're having these parties kind of in that area. So I can see why they're zeroing in on this guy. But they've been, at least the press has been fairly strong about Sugar. There's been some very strong comments that are basically saying they think that she's the one responsible. So it's really
She's
just,
not responsible. She's in on it.
right, right. So it's really just about trying to find other people that could parallel the information and give them enough to say, okay, yes, now we know it's her. We've got the other pieces we need, and we can go. Um, Man, I don't know how you move that needle forward without some help. You need someone in that situation to come forward, and you're asking for people to remember something from, like you said, blowing hookers, right? Well,
Yeah.
how's your memory going to be this many years later about whatever happened on that night? Especially if it is like something more innocuous that they're looking for, like, oh yeah, we saw Sugar leave with your mother, or
Yeah.
just something small like that. Like, how would you even remember it this many years later? Is John Van Gameren still alive? He'd be like in his 90s at this point, right?
He thought he was dead, but I've heard that he is actually still alive.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm hopeful maybe he'd be kind enough to write a little letter and leave it somewhere in his house, just to let the truth free at some point, possibly. In your heart, do you think that this really all boils down to Sugar?
I in my heart, I feel like she definitely knows something. Um, I mean, 3 failed polygraph tests, but she denies having anything to do with my mom's case. I know polygraph tests are not admissible, but still. Uh, and I don't think she did it alone. If she did it, I don't think she did it alone. I think there was probably a man involved.
Mm.
Again, I don't know. I know that I know you said we'd touch on the DNA later, but I believe that they found male DNA on that as well.
So yeah, tell us about that. What happened? Where does the DNA come from?
Okay, so in I believe 2000, I don't know if it was 2006 or 2011, they released that they had amplified DNA. It must have been 2006. Yes. Okay. So it was still while Sheriff Blumendahl was in charge. He had a cutting edge Scandinavian based, although I think it was actually in the US company, try to get any DNA they could off of her clothes and the rope.
Okay.
Now, I don't know which item they got the DNA off of, but they were able to get amplified DNA. So they had a very minuscule amount of DNA.
Right.
But that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And DNA has progressed insanely in the last 10 years. And I have begged the sheriff's department and the cold case unit guy to take this old DNA and have it taken to a private modern lab. And I've spoken with like 6 different labs. There's one lady who is amazing, and she was the co-founder of the DNA Doe Project.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe she is the leader of Identifiers International.
Mm-hmm.
And
You're talking about
would,
Colleen?
yeah.
Yeah.
She's an amazing woman. Brilliant. If you look at her, what she's done,
Mm-hmm.
it blows my mind that she's spoken with me. I'm like, how are you talking to me? My IQ I'm probably making you dumber talking to me.
She is so sweet. She will answer like every email. Yeah.
Yeah. She's tried to explain DNA things to me, and I'm just like right over my head. But I have begged them to, she's offered to talk to them, and they say no.
Why? Even an amplified amount of DNA, Well, first of all, it's interesting to me because I knew about the amplified DNA, but I didn't know that they thought it was a male. So my first thought would have been like, oh, so apparently because it's amplified, there are rules about what can go into CODIS, so they can't enter it into CODIS. But
Yeah.
you
They have
could,
a minuscule amount.
yeah, yeah, but you could still go and do a comparison, especially if you think that it was Sugar's DNA, and we know who Sugar is, and you can follow her around, and you can get a water bottle that she drops or a piece of gum that she throws in the trash, and
Yeah.
you
I
can
mean, if she denies having any involvement with my mom's case, I think she would be the first to volunteer her DNA,
right, right.
but they won't even consider it.
That is so strange. I don't know why they wouldn't accept that help.
I don't know. And it's kind of like they had a page for her on their website, on the sheriff's department website. There was a whole page with a link to, there was a reward. There were links to her um, to submit a tip. There was like this whole deal. And when they revamped the website, they took it down. And so now there's a bunch of articles out there with broken links. And I even asked, hey, you don't have to make a page, but can you fix a tip line link? And I will do the grunt work. I will contact all of these, anything I can find with the broken link, and let them know, hey, that link doesn't work anymore. Can you change it to this? And
Right.
they told me no.
Man, I don't know
It's like
why.
they don't want to solve her case. I really feel that they don't give a damn.
Now, the Lyons County Sheriff's Office, in particular, Sheriff Brian Hilt, did have a press release that came out in May of 2025, and it's basically an update on the case. Here's what they're saying. It's now been approximately 47 years since Ms. Nissen was found dead. She was a victim who was murdered. And though many years have passed, the investigation is still open, and the goal is to seek justice for Ms. Nissen and her family. With the passing of time and a case going from one investigator to the next, there are significant challenges in solving a case. However, with the passing of time, advancements are also made in forensic science and technology. Over time, as these advancements have been made, the investigative team has sought out utilizing these advancements to provide information to further the investigation. This continues today as the investigative team continues to seek out forensic solutions which may lead to additional information for investigators. Despite the passing of time, as this is an active open investigation, there are many specific details which will not be released. Doing so could compromise the investigation and any potential prosecution. There is a twofold purpose for this update. The first is to communicate that the investigation is open, active, and ongoing. Our office has a significant caseload with current cases, but as much as we are able with the resources we have, we continue to investigate this case. This includes seeking assistance from other law enforcement agencies. Second, with the passing of time, those who may have been involved in or have knowledge of what happened to Ms. Nissen age as well. We urge those people to come forward and share any information they may have. It may, hopefully, have been weighing on the conscience of those involved or with knowledge of it for approximately 47 years. Our office and the victim's family urge anyone with knowledge to come forward to assist in moving this investigation forward, obtaining closure for the family, and justice for Ms. Nissen. Should you have any information to share, please contact the Lyon County Sheriff's Office at 712-472-8300 or email sheriff@lyoncountyia.com. So I did see that there's been another new little round of press about this case. There's an announcement that was made a few weeks ago about playing cards.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that.
The Attorney General, they actually, it's Brianna. I'm not sure if it's Brianna or Brianna, but something like that. Bird is the Attorney General in Iowa, and she started a cold case deck that quite a few states have.
Mm-hmm.
They get distributed to jails and prisons in the hopes that someone recognizes the person. My mom is the Six of Hearts. There's also a podcast that is they're just getting information out. They're not biased. They're not bashing the cops in any way. They wanted to share her case, and they need the police to approve it because they want to have their side too. And again, I was told no.
That's unbelievable. They just wanted them to approve it. They didn't want them to participate in it.
They just the sheriff's department just said no. They wouldn't even talk to them.
So weird. So weird. Well, thankfully, there's been a lot of other creators that are stepping up to help you boost this message, and it really seems like you're on a tear this year. Like you are shaking every tree trying to get this case out there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I was doing it in 2020 and 2021, and then I went down to with Angela Konecki from Kalo in Sioux Falls.
Mm-hmm.
I went down there and talked to the sheriff before this one, and ex-detective Berkey, who's been amazing, said that he didn't think they were going to solve the case. And that kind of broke me for a few years. So I thought about my mom every day, but I didn't post for a while.
Yeah.
And then this last meeting last month almost broke me again. I had to tell myself, no, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
I wish they would just give me the damn paperwork and let me solve it, because I'm pretty sure if I had access to half of what they did, I could figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the DNA testing, the private lab, there are grants. They wouldn't have to pay a penny, but they still won't do it.
Oh yeah. No, there's all kinds of different firms that would help at least do, fundraisers and stuff like that to help raise the funds for doing that. But not letting someone like Colleen Fitzpatrick like assist. That's just that's crazy. That's crazy.
I
Like
agree.
if you want an easy win, if you guys happen to be seeing this, accept the help from Colleen.
Yeah.
Just accept it.
She's phenomenal. I recommend her to anyone that needs help with the cold case, or she does identifying removal. And it's not all DNA she does. She's a scientist and she is brilliant and she cares. That's a really amazing combo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So at this point, is there still, I know there was a reward. Is there still one available?
Nope.
No reward available at this point. Okay.
No reward, no webpage, no nothing.
Okay. But we do have a daughter that is on a mission, and you're leaving a huge social media footprint. I know we've got a link tree here, Justice for Wilma June Nissen, with all kinds of media links to all kinds of stuff. On top of that, you are managing a Reddit page at / Wilma June Nissen. You've got a Facebook page. Sometimes it appears that Meta has been giving her a little grief lately, but it's back as of right now. So if you try to get to it and you don't see it, just give it a day and come back, apparently. And it'll pop.
And anyone can always message me on Reddit or Twitter. I also, or X or whatever it is. I have a profile on X that's at my mom's murder.
Yep.
And I have a TikTok. I have a TikTok now. That's, I think it's just under my name, 1977, Krissi 1977.
We'll have links. We'll have links to all that in the show notes down below, so you can.
I even have an email that if someone knew her, I don't care how they knew her, message me. If you might have seen something you don't feel like it's relevant, or you don't want to call the police, or you've called the police and you feel like they've blown you off, you can email me. Or if someone's going through this and just wants someone to talk to, they can contact me.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm just curious, did you ever reconnect with your siblings?
Haven't been able to find them.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I know that can be tough with the with how adoption records are locked up.
I did, on Father's Day, I did finally break down and buy an Ancestry DNA kit. So hopefully that pans out something.
Do you feel a push to do that, to reconnect with them? You don't even know if they know about their mother.
I don't even know if they're alive. I have two younger siblings on my father's side that went to foster care, so I don't know anything about them, their names or anything. And then I have two older brothers, possibly on my mom's side. And I would I've never been related to anyone I'm related to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I would very much like to find someone.
Yeah. I hear that. Um, so I just wanted to ask, it has to have been just a crazy journey in terms of the drive to try to learn more about your mom when you're younger. You get to learn that she's part of this terrible story, but through that, you actually get to learn about her upbringing, some of the challenges that she had, how those parallel to some of the challenges that you had. Um, how do you continue staying connected to her in some way? How do you keep yourself fueled for pursuing this year after year?
It's exhausting. I'm not gonna lie, it is emotionally and physically exhausting, but she needs justice. Her life was just, even if she wasn't my mom, her life was so horrific. And she deserves someone to fight. No one ever fought for her. No one, ever. She was never even reported missing.
Right.
So, and I really feel like she's a part of me. I mean, down to the boots. I didn't know, but I wore nothing but boots until I got, well, old, and I still wear boots. They're just flat.
Well, it's amazing just seeing you and seeing pictures of your mother. Like, you guys have such a strong resemblance. Like, the family resemblance is absolutely
See,
there.
I feel like I look like my dad, but
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm definitely I'm tripping a little bit between looking at the pictures of your mom and then speaking with you. But yeah. Well, we really appreciate you spending all this time with here today, Krissi. Is there anything you want to share with the audience before we go?
Um, if you're fighting a fight like this and you're getting nowhere, don't give up hope. Um, there's a few organizations, if it's okay, that I wouldn't mind mentioning.
Please do.
Season of Justice is a phenomenal organization. They will help with DNA. They'll do billboards. They'll do that. Contact them if you have a loved one that is a cold case. Project Cold Case is another one that's really good. Again, Identifiers International is really amazing. I highly recommend them. They are caring. They're not like, I know Autumn's the big one, but they've got a ginormous waiting list. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the waiting list is like for identifiers, but they are. I mean, this woman cares. She started the DNA Dope Project. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look up Wilma June Nissen, you'll find lots of stuff on her. And please, if you see something, if you know something, anything, say it. Email me, contact me on one of the social medias.
Yeah. What's that email address?
Mine for my mom's is justice number 4 Wilma at AOL. And the Attorney General.
Yeah, I've got an email address for them as well, coldcase@ag.iowa.gov. Or you
Okay.
can, yep, or you can also call 1-800-242-5100 for the AG's
Okay.
office.
Beautiful.
Excellent. All right,
Awesome.
Krissi. Well, please keep me updated on what's going on with this case, and my fingers are crossed.
Please stay in touch.
Absolutely. And I know you're hitting these stopgaps and occasionally hearing some messages that are just breaking your heart with this, but the partnerships that you're telling me about that you're forming, you're talking to the right people, you're putting a good team together around you, and if you keep doing that, at some point something's going to break. You're going to see a breakthrough with this case.
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
If anyone has any recommendations for me too, please by all means let me know. I feel like I could be doing more and I should be doing more, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. I do. All right, Krissi, thank you so much and take care.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. You too. Thank you so much again.
You got it. Another big thank you to Krissi Atkinson for joining us here today to talk to us about her mother. But in a strange way, I feel like this is almost more of Krissi's story. It's just been such a journey of discovery for her, finding those parallels with a mother that she never really knew just really touches my heart. If you'd like to show her some support and continue to follow this story, we'll have all the links that you need in the show notes, including the Facebook group, which hopefully will stay active. But she's also very passionate about a change.org petition that she started to help mandate transparency and regular updates in cold case investigations, specifically for family members. I love this idea, and it's just kind of simple. Like, just make some form of rule, law, mechanism where law enforcement has to make a regular contact pattern with those families and just keep them updated. And if you have to make that phone call and you're like, oh, I haven't done anything on this in the past 6 months, maybe it's going to make you think twice about, hey, maybe I can run a couple of leads before I make this phone call. You never know how it could help kind of spur that next action or activity. So if you believe in that too, please come take a look at this change.org petition. On top of that, Krissi is also looking to raise funds. It's not free to do this kind of stuff. She's making these connections with experts. She's probably going to be going to different advocacy events and things like that. There's a cost for all that. So if you want us to help support her efforts, please check out the GoFundMe link down below. On behalf of myself and my amazing supporters here at the Lord and Arts channel, I'm going to make a donation to this just as soon as I'm done filming here today. And speaking of my amazing supporters, I can't do it without you guys. You might notice I don't run ads in the middle of these videos. There's one at the beginning and there's one at the end. I want to keep you focused on the case, and that's how I decided it's the best way to do that. I can't do it without your support, though. A big thank you to PayPal supporters Larissa Mertschink and Jennifer Wilson. If you'd like to become a supporter, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee like Candy Bishop does every single month. We really appreciate your support as we look to help these many families in need. And sometimes these individuals, I bet Krissi sometimes feels like she's alone. Things like this can really turn that around. And I couldn't do this without having the platform that you guys have given to me. So thank you very much for doing that. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. And please join us again next week for another mystery right here on the Lord and Arts channel.